Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grev, and welcome once again to another episode of the Red Bull and Reds podcast. I'm joined this evening for a very special episode by my co-host, Jace. How are we doing, Jace?
Yes, mate. We're good today. It's almost the weekend, and most importantly, the football is almost here. It's almost here.
You can taste it. You can
Yeah,
taste it.
yeah. I can taste that Havertz sitter from 2 yards out, hitting the back of the net.
Okay. Well, I mean, are you going to watch? What is it? Burnley Man City tomorrow night. Are you going to watch that?
Yeah. I think I will, long as the wife is got something
Allowing
else
it.
to do. But
You
yeah,
can
how about
balance
you?
out. You can watch some Sex and the City or something afterwards if you like.
I
Who
don't think
knows?
she watches that.
You can show
How's
how
your
old
week?
my references are. They're very
Yeah,
old
yeah. That is
references.
very, very old.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, how are you doing? How's your
I
week been?
am, yeah, I'm all right. I think just before we came on air, I said to Jace, my foot's hurting a little bit, and I can't quite come to the realization that I'm just getting old. That's what people keep telling me every time I've got an ailment, my back hurts, and my foot hurts. It's because I'm old.
Yeah, it's hard to accept though, isn't it? Like, you know how much sport I do, and I'm feeling it a lot at the moment, and everyone keeps saying it to me, but I refuse
I'm
to
not having
accept it.
this,
I
Jace. You're
refuse to
significantly
accept it.
younger than me. I'm not having this. This is awful.
We're both in our 30s. I mean, you're closer to 40, I'm closer to
All right.
30. But
Whoa. Unbelievable. On that bombshell, I'm going to go right into the music, and we can get into our very special episode today. It's a big special. We're going to be doing our Premier League season predictions, all the way from 20 to number one. Me and Jace are going to be discussing each one to see how close or far we are apart. But let's crack on that music, and then we'll get right into it.
Saka. Saka! That is a diamond of a goal! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent!
This is my club. Fucking love this football club.
Henri. What a goal! Gabriel Martinelli! He's scoring for Arsenal!
Right, as I said, welcome everyone. We're going to be doing our Premier League season predictions. But before we get into that, I'm going to start the show like I do every single show, where we talk about our rip roaring review. So, Jace, tell me, it's only been a few days removed since our last podcast, but I'm sure there's been a lot going on. Where are you going to go for your rip roaring review?
Raya number one. Raya number one. It's a great deal we got for him, by the way, wasn't it? 3 million for the season, and then if he's good enough, we'll keep him. I mean, that's the best try before you buy I think I've ever seen. But yeah, I think he'll be number one. I was watching a few different other YouTube videos, and the Ben Foster one, the cycling goalkeeper, is quite interesting. You hear his perspective on it. He's very much he's a friend of Ramsdale, I think, and you can probably tell with some of his perspectives, he's very pro Ramsdale. But there was something there that really influenced my thinking, which was kind of like the fact that yes, competition, but we've always wanted Raya for a long time. The goalkeeping coach, we've already said, is at the club, and I just feel that we want a goalkeeper that's going to be more consistent with the type of football Mikel wants to play. Ramsdale was an upgrade, but Raya is another upgrade on the specific type of football that Arteta wants. So yeah, that's my call. I think he's going in at number one. He won't. It'll take him probably a month or two, I think, before we actually see him in the sticks on a permanent basis. He'll still have to earn the shirt, but I think he'll be the number one by
How do you think that'll happen?
Christmas.
Do you think it's a mistake from Ramsdale, or do you think it's something different to that?
I think it will happen when there will be a point in time when it's natural to play Raya, a League Cup game, maybe a Champions League game against a lower quality opposition. And I think he'll take that chance, and I think he'll perform so well that Arteta will say, right, yeah, that's it, you're staying in. I think Ramsdale had a similar opportunity when he took over from Bernd Leno, and I think that's how it's going to happen. Because I mean, the only other thing is Ramsdale gets an injury, but that's probably unlikely. So I think that's how it'll happen. Yeah, that's my big shout. Anything from you? What's your review?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going along similar lines to you. Firstly, yeah, you're right. The deal is extraordinary. Edu is cooking. You know, that is. I just can't fathom it. You know, I believe there was a bid from Tottenham for around 40 million that was rejected, and then we've come along, and it really is a testament to the work we've done in the background. We've done this with three players at least that I'm aware of this season. So Timber, Rice, and now Raya were all kind of tapped up before. The personal terms were already kind of agreed. They already want and sold on the project, and thus it's hard for the team to do anything about it once that player's mind is made up. You know, and if we're going to talk about it in the parking lot later, but there's a certain Tottenham player that maybe if they had done that already, it would have been wrapped up already. So yeah, super impressed by that. And secondly, I'm not too sure he'll surpass Ramsdale. I'm not too sure that he'll become the number one. I'm not as sold on that idea as you are. One thing I will say, in a similar vein to how Havertz allows us to set up in a different way going forward, I think David Raya sets us up in that way as well. I think if you're playing a Havertz-Raya combination versus Ramsdale and another, it's a different way in which we set up. That long ball over to Havertz, pull it down, get it out to Saka, Martinelli, Trossard is going to be something that assists us. I think you mentioned it in the last one, that you should be doing it in a situation that kind of needs it with a low block, as an example. So for me, you know, that's where I'd go.
Yeah, makes sense. I can see that happening as well. I can see that happening. So, yeah. Should we get into it? Should we get into the predictions? I'm just thinking, it could be a long one.
I mean, me and Jace always set up with 45 minutes, and then it's never 45 minutes. Right, so we're going to get into the relegation battle. Jace, I'm going to let you go first. Who is your number 20?
I think everyone's got the same team at number 20, though, haven't they? Luton.
Say it after three at the same time. Oh, damn, you ruined it, Jace.
Yeah, it's Luton. Like, no Premier League experience, which we all know about. This is what Luton coming up feels like to me. It feels like Blackpool when they came up. 2000.
You just saying that because of the colour, Jace? Just the
they have got that. They have got that in common, yeah. But no, that's kind of what it feels a little bit like to me. Like a club that's so small that it's not they don't deserve to be in the Premier League. It's just that. And Bournemouth are maybe the exception to the rule because they managed to stay up, and I think have been down and back up since. But yeah, I just feel they haven't had hardly any investment, and I just feel that they have a very inexperienced squad when it comes to Premier League quality. And I think that's going to be their downfall. You need a bit of nous and experience in this league. And I think they might suffer because of that.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I'm with you.
What about you?
They haven't signed a lot of experience. I looked at some of their stats from the championship. That they're poor with possession. They're poor at protecting leads if they get them. They draw a lot. You know, there's nothing selling anything to me there, and that ground is not a Premier League ground. I know a lot's been said about it. They've had to spend a lot of money to get it to the state and caliber that it needs to be. Yeah, just not. I just don't want to see that. So yeah, number 20 for me, same as you, going to be Luton.
Have you seen the videos going around of when Harry Kane? Well, he won't be if he goes to. I think he's going to Bayern now, isn't he? But the videos jokingly going around. It's like when Harry Kane misses a penalty at Luton. It just shows a ball going over the stand and hitting someone in the face in their garden.
I have to throw it back in. It'd be like a friendly, casual Monday night game for us, having to get the next door neighbours to throw the ball back over the fence.
Yeah, true.
I just blame the kids. Right. So number 20, Luton are going down. Who is going down next for you?
Everton.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is bold.
Yeah, that's probably the boldest one I've got, actually. Here's my simple reason. It's about bloody time. Just like every season for the last few years, they've been in the same position. They've escaped it by margins. And on the whole, of previous seasons, if you look at the whole season, I think they deserve to go down, and they just suddenly managed not to. The inconsistency in the changing of manager, so the team is then inconsistent in the way it's playing. The ownership is awful. Like the guy that used to having shares in Arsenal, like he's like just chucking. He thinks chucking money at a problem will resolve it. We know for a fact that that does not resolve it. I think United is starting to learn from the fact that that does not resolve it. Like you need to look at your organization from the core through, and I don't think they've been doing that properly, and I think the quality of the squad and the team has suffered because of it. And then the final thing, I mean, I went and just had a look at on the one of the transfer websites just to see what players they had brought in preparation for this. The main player I could recognize that they've brought in is Ashley Young. He's so
I think they
old.
bought. Yeah, I mean he is, and they've also lost a lot of. I think Yerry Mina. They've had a couple of others that they've lost as well. So
Yeah,
they haven't replaced well either.
If you're bringing Ashley Young in, like Everton fans must be so pissed off with that. Like you're going to be playing in the Championship in your new 60,000 seater stadium. Just saying. Sorry, I'm not sorry.
Awkward.
Are
they the only other club that have been the Premier League ever present?
Yeah, another reason why I kind of wanted to go down, right?
I thought that was the
reason.
case.
Yeah. Go on then. Who's number 19 for
you? Yeah, it's not Everton. I'm probably not as bold as you on that one. For me, it's Sheffield United. A lack of experience signings, a relatively poor pre-season, and goals for them seem to be their biggest kind of problem. They've sold a lot of good players that they had. I think I saw Sander Berge. He went to Burnley. They had another Burnley great signing video. Absolutely, they did this one with like a burger. They do such great signing videos. I have a bit of affinity with Old Sheffield United, being quite an FPL player. They had one of their players was basically like a cult hero amongst FPL players in Lundstrom. He would just bag bonus points, and he was out of position, just getting a lot of points, and used to love him, but he obviously doesn't play for them anymore. And they just don't seem to have anybody in their midst that I think could ever keep them out of the relegation zone for me. So yeah, Sheffield United, number 19.
So this switches around. 18 for you.
I wonder if we got the same. So me and Jason have not looked at each other's. Well, I've not looked at yours, put it that way. So I have no idea where you're going. My number 18 is Wolves. And there's a few reasons for it. They've lost their spine. They've lost so many talented players: Traore, Neves, Matinho, Diego Costa, Jimenez as well. I think actually not Costa, Jimenez. So they've lost a lot of players. Their squad depth is super, super low. I think they've just got a brand new manager, so you could get a bit of a manager bounce, but I just can't see it with that squad. And they scored like hardly anything last season, and they've lost their only real talisman in Jimenez. And so I worry for them. I think if they're not there, they'll be thereabouts. So yeah, my 18th is Wolves. What about yours, Chase?
Okay. So I'm actually going to do 18 and 17 because they're the same two clubs that you've just mentioned. So 18th Sheffield United. Not much more to add to you apart from Trusty's not going to keep them up. They can sign Trusty for Arsenal, but unfortunately, he's not going to keep them up,
especially for 5 million.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Sheffield United only spent 25 million euros, about 22 million pounds. And I'm looking at the players they brought in, and I'm just again like, I don't see any. It's hard because when teams bring players in from other leagues, you can't judge because sometimes they will take to a league and play really, really well. On the other hand, I look at that squad and go, where is the Premier League now again a little bit with that? And I just feel like they've not invested enough. Like they had quite a few of their good players leave when they did get relegated a couple of seasons back from the Premier League. So, yeah, I don't think they've got enough to stay up. And Wolves, I mean, all my bullets I've got here are exactly the same as yours. So yeah, they lost all their good players. I mean, some of them have gone to Saudi Arabia.
And then Neves. How old was Neves? Neves was like young, right? He was like 26
27, 26,
Okay.
27. He wasn't.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he was. I mean, he was meant to be coming to Arsenal at one point, and then he was off to United, and yeah.
I mean, it's good money where you can get it, right? I get it from a financial standpoint. I don't maybe get it from a longevity of your career standpoint.
Wasn't he meant to be going to Barca? Actually, Barca was the club that had the real transfer speculation, and then he ended up going to Saudi Arabia. But that's because Barca don't have any money.
Yeah.
I must admit, I don't follow Wolves at all. But did they have a striker last year, Kuna? And I was looking on the transfer website. It says they bought him for 50 million euros. I don't know if that's accurate because I don't follow the Wolves transfer gossip.
Why not?
Because I don't care about Wolves. I mean, double check this, but it said 50 million euros for a player called Kuna, and I was like, that can't be right. Surely they got him from. So Kuna news. Here you go. Yeah. So Wolves players have shut off surrounding. Yeah. So he's at Wolves. He came from Atletico Madrid, and he was there till 2023. So yeah, he was on loan there last year, and they signed him this year, according to this.
I mean, never, like I say, I'm not a big fan of Atletico Madrid either, so I'm not too sure what he can do. But 50 million, I mean, the market's the market at the moment. 50 million could be anything ranging from no goals in whatever club he's playing for to 30.
True, but my point here is, should Wolves be signing a 50 million euro striker in the position they're in, considering their whole spine has been depleted? I was looking at the rest of their signings and was like, I'd have spent that money more wisely, just saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're my number 17. It was only because I think Wolves have got... I think that the only thing I think they benefit from maybe is their new manager, Gary. Is it Gary O'Neill? He was a Bournemouth manager, and we'll come on to talking about Bournemouth, but he did great at Bournemouth last year. He kept them up. So I think he can do the same with Wolves, just on a 3-year contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of the relegation zone then, right? So we're into the bottom half now. Your 17 was Wolves, yeah?
Yep. So is yours.
Okay. Mine is Nottingham Forest.
Okay.
I mean, they had a good season last season. I'm not saying that at all. And obviously they beat us, so I've got a bit of affinity with making sure they're as near to the bottom as humanly possible. But their pre-season was I had a little look. It was pretty shocking. They scored 3 goals across 7 games and conceded 10. Their away form in the Premier League last season was their biggest problem. They could do well at home. They just couldn't do any business away from home. Yeah. And although Cooper's a good manager, they got to keep him. They got to keep his interest. Like, they're going to be one of those clubs that if the results trend in the wrong direction, he'll be gone. Like, because they're just not going to rely on. They're going to need someone to keep them up. And I think they will. I think they will stay up. I'm just not too sure they've got enough in them to be anywhere close to the middle of the table.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them going down. I don't see them being, in a 10th either. I think they'll just be a pretty average Premier League team. And I mean, I'll say where I've got them in a little bit later. But I think that's a fair assessment. I think Cooper's decent. And I think when he has time with that squad's okay, in my opinion. Like, he was a lot of pressure on him in the first half of the season last year. But it wasn't necessarily him that brought all those players in. That wasn't his decision.
There's a lot of players there as well, weren't there?
Was it like 25 30 players or something. I don't know. I didn't count how
Basically
many.
rebuilt an entire squad.
Yeah. And like they did stupid things as well, right? They're learning from their mistakes this season as well, right? You don't go and buy bring in Jesse Lingard and give him stupid money. Like that was a stupid move for him. He should have gone to West Ham. I don't know what he was doing.
Well, he's taking the money. Like we said that already with people like Neves, right?
Yeah,
Money's on the table. A lot of these players are making, relatively astute financial decisions, but maybe not footballing ones.
But he was a free transfer. He could have gone to West Ham for maybe 20 grand a week less, but be earning that money over 2 to 3 years, opposed to you just taking a 1 year contract.
He might have had bad advice, maybe. We've said that a few times.
Yeah.
I was going to say something on your point about Wolves or maybe Sheffield United. One thing that has stood out to me in some of those lower level clubs, not a lot of loans for Premier League caliber players. Usually that's where they go. They'll get some loanees from some mid-table to upper table kind of clubs that are trying to offload, and that experience can help them stay up. And that's not really happened from what I can tell.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. If I was, I don't know, if I was Edo going, hello, roll up. Have you seen my Cedric Suarez over here? He's a pure quality right back. He'll piss you off with crosses into the box that go to nobody. Rob Holding, 5 million, going once, going twice. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll give you 5 million. I know exactly, but we're not a selling club. We've been through that before, but it's just interesting to kind of see that we can't do some of that lower business. And I like your analogy. We would definitely be probably parading our wares towards the latter half of August when we might need to make some signings of our own. So
let these lower table teams have a few games. Let them understand where their vulnerabilities are, and then we'll come chasing for Rob Holding and Cedric Suarez towards the end of the window.
I mean, it'd have to be pretty bad to be coming back for them. Right, number 16 then. Jace, where are you?
West Ham.
Wowzers.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we saw how they played in the Premier League last year. They weren't great. Declan Rice was their best player by far, and they don't have him anymore. There's one other player that makes them look good, and it's Paqueta. And is he going to City?
Have you seen the prices quoted?
Yeah, I know, that's hilarious, right?
Oh my days, that is insane. West Ham are just we're not a selling club. Jesus, they are a selling club. That is unreal business if they get that through.
Well, I think City kind of need that player as well, because I mean, I could argue we should have bought him last year when it was touted we were going to buy him, and then he went to West Ham. He is amazingly gifted, and you can see him being a Kevin De Bruyne replacement, because I wouldn't be surprised to see Kevin De Bruyne off to Saudi Arabia at the end of this season for a big money move as he gets into his mid-30s. What is he, 32 now? 31, 32?
We've been told off for getting the wrong ages a couple of times already, Jace.
Oh, okay. Well,
He is, where is it? He was born in 1991, so he's 32, Jace. You're on the money.
Yeah, he's the same age as me. And look, I'm ready for my...
how young, but you just said how old you were feeling, Jace. So you might be saying the same.
Yeah, but it's different. I'm not a Premier League footballer, but I am open to a big payday if someone wants to provide it. I'd love to pay off my house. I think if West Ham lose those players, they've got Bowen, but he's not enough. I don't think they've got. I'm going to criticize. This is going to be big. I don't think Moyes is now a caliber of manager that you would look for in the Premier League. Maybe if you're... No, he isn't. Even the teams at the bottom are getting more modern style footballing managers in the door. There's a lot of Guardiola disciples roaming around in the moment. Company, Zibri, Arteta.
I wrote the same thing.
The Leicester manager. So it's like kind of like looking at West Ham going, David Moyes won the European trophy, great, but that's a competition. It's knockout. League season, it was awful, and I'd be going time for a change, especially the caliber of players they've been trying to bring in. And if they do have all this money to spend, you can also bring that manager in and actually have enough money to actually afford to spend and change your style of play. So yeah, West Ham 16th.
Okay. Mine is not West Ham. Mine is Bournemouth. So I know that you said they did a good job, their manager before, but they've got a really poor record. They've lost some really good defensive players in the likes of Lerma that they haven't really replaced. I think after they'd lost, was it Eddie Howe? It's all kind of felt a bit fragile to me. And I just don't think they've got the caliber of squad to kind of fight the way that they've been fighting in previous seasons. They've got a new coach, and he does play a really similar style to, what was the name of the Leeds manager that played really attacking football?
Oh, the American manager, Jesse.
Is it Bielsa? Bielsa?
Oh, Bielsa. Oh, Bielsa. Yeah, Argentinian manager. Yeah.
So he played, when they came up, he played like a very stylistic brand of football that we just talked about. And he would never waver. He would never change his approach to playing. And from what I've understood, the Bournemouth manager is doing similar things. And I'm not too sure that it necessarily translates super well into the Premier League. We've seen a lot of teams play that way and get caught out, particularly on the break and in transition. So yeah, 16th for me is Bournemouth.
Yeah, I get that. I have them a little bit higher, but I had new manager. I actually don't get it. Like, I get that they're bringing in a manager who can play that kind of football potentially, maybe, but I don't get sacking the manager that did so well for you last year. That's what I don't get.
And you think some of the players then might not want to play for the new coach as well. You get some of that sometimes where they were quite enamored with the previous coach and the job that they'd done. They kind of down tools. So yeah, we'll see. But I just can't see them fighting much more beyond lower mid table.
Yeah, fair enough.
15th then, Jace. What about you?
Palace. Not really much to say about them. I mean, my question really is, can they keep Eze and Olise? Because Olise is again another City target, isn't he? So that's interesting. They've brought some players in. I'm not necessarily too familiar with the players they brought in. I find that a bit of a theme with Palace, if I'm honest. They're always buying players that I've not ever heard of, but then you get into the league season and you're like, oh, they're quite good. So I'm expecting similar from them. I'm not expecting amazing things. I'm expecting them to cement themselves in a solid 15th, probably just miss out on a relegation battle. Maybe be in the relegation battle till Christmas and then slowly start to pull away. That's probably where I expect them to be. That's about it. That's all we've got to say about Palace. No high hopes. Just standard, I guess, is the way I'd class it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Zaha,
I have them. He's left,
Zaha's
didn't he? Did he go to Saudi or was it somewhere else? I forget.
He's gone Turkey.
Turkey, okay. Well, like Besiktas or Fenerbahce or something?
I think it was Galatasaray.
Okay. Oh yeah, because I think I remember him. They did like a video of him getting off the plane and doing all that, and because they have the big crowds that always gather around the airport when these new signings turn up.
Yeah, he's gone to. Yep, he has gone to
Galatasaray. I'm sure
Galatasaray. Galatasaray says Zaha has received a £2 million signing on fee. This is interesting because he could have gone to Saudi and earned a lot more money. I don't know why he chose Turkey. I mean, I'd be intrigued to know the reasons.
I mean, there was a lot of talk. Would you have taken him in a replacement for Saka?
As a backup for Saka?
Sorry, as a backup, yeah.
Yeah, 100% taking him as a backup for Saka. 100%.
I think he's dangerous. I think he takes on a man. He's good. He's Premier League proven. Relatively old by like numbers, but he's got a few years left in him for sure.
He's more on the left though, isn't he? He's not a right side.
We got
So
quite a
it doesn't-
good selection there.
Yeah, left stack, the right's thin.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Go on then, 14th for you.
I haven't done 15th. I'll do 15th and
Oh.
14th, Jason. I'll do
Yeah,
both of
yeah,
them
all
because
right.
you've talked a little bit about some of them. So 15th for me is Fulham. Fulham, they get a lot of points against the bottom, which will keep them kind of afloat. They got Marco Silva, good coach, good manager, but I'm concerned about what's going to happen with Mitrovic because that's still not resolved itself yet. All signs would point to him leaving, and he is. I love him and I hate him at the same time. He's like the Marmite for me. I hate playing against him because he's just a bully, gets himself about. He really gets in players' heads, and he's really got the kind of dark arts nailed down. And he scores goals. He always scores. But so I think that's a big loss. They did lose Willian as well, and although Willian was actually dross for us, he is actually pretty good for them. And that is quite, despite him being his age and maybe doesn't have the legs for it much anymore. He was good, and he'll be a big loss for them. So I don't see them stretching much beyond that kind of area of the table. But I still see that they're not going to be in a relegation dogfight, I don't think, but they'll be there or thereabouts. And 14th, you just said it yourself. You said Everton. I think Everton were your 17th. Was that right, Jace? Or 18th? I forget.
I had 19th, mate.
19th,
right down.
even worse. So I have a bit further up than you. They obviously just scraped relegation last season. I think Sean Dyche is proven enough that he's like a keeping people out of relegation fiend in the similar vein to some of the other managers of that nature. I think he can do it again. They've had a decent pre-season, but they do have a lack of signings. So I'm not as worried as you are, or maybe I'm wanting them to go down as you are. But yeah, I think they'll be up a little bit more. So that's my 14th. What about your 14th, Jess?
Forest. So I won't talk too much about them because we've already talked about them. All I'm going to say is Matt Turner is going to make saves.
Going to stick him in the old fantasy team, I think, once I've done my little tidying up tonight ahead of tomorrow's Premier League opener. Yeah, I think he'll go straight in.
The Premier. Yeah, but are you going to put him in against us?
Well, my other keeper, I've got Onana as my other keeper for Man United. So I'll be able to rotate those two.
Okay, that's tactical. Fair enough. Yeah,
tactical. So we are probably in the middle of the table now, right, Jace?
We're there or thereabouts. I think we've done 15th, 14th, 13th then. 13th. I'll go Bournemouth. Nothing more to add. I mean, we already talked about them pretty in a bit of detail. So, yeah, 13th. I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of teams from all the ones that we've discussed, 13 down. They could all, you could almost say that relegation zone is quite big. And it's there are solid 8 teams maybe that you could say could end up being in a relegation battle.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd say Luton and Sheffield United for me are they're in the weeds for me. Everything above that, like the 7 above that, are maybe are relatively interchangeable. Like you could see them depending on injuries, depending on form, lots of other things. They'll be all in that mixture for sure.
Yeah, it's going to hurt when Spurs go down.
I don't quite have them in there, but we'll get them. So my 13th was West Ham. So you've already talked about West Ham. Lack of signings. I wrote the exact same as what you said. His style of football is docile, and at a time it worked. And was and he was lauded as quite a tactical, pragmatic coach, particularly after when he went to Man United and then beyond that. But yeah, I can't see them doing very well with his brand of football. The only saving grace I was going to say just before you jump in is Bowen. Bowen's had a great preseason, and he's a good player. And I think if he does do well, there's a chance they'll scrape through relatively well.
Yeah, reports are he's still on fire, so we'll see.
Yeah. What about yours? We are at 13th. What's your 13th, Chase?
Fulham. Yeah, again, they were quite good with Marco Silva last year. I had them. That was one of the teams where I had them actually higher at the beginning. and then I think slowly I've moved them further and further down my list.
I did the same.
Fulham.
I did the same. Yeah.
Yeah, because I like Marco Silva. I think he's a great manager, tactical nous. They play a good style of football. But if they lose Mitrovic and they don't have I mean, he's a very, as you say, like kind of divisive figure. But yeah, if they lose him, they're just not going to be as good as last year. And I think the problem is that a lot of teams around them where they were trying to compete at that top level last year have improved significantly. So I think it's quite a top heavy top 10 this season as well, or top 8. So yeah, I think they'll be down there. 12th now?
12th, yeah, I'm on 12. So I'm not going to talk about this one too much. I'll do 12 and 11, Jace. 12 is Palace, all the same reasons that you said. I just think they'll just be in the middle, nothing special, nothing not. They're not. I don't think they're going to push for Europe, nor do I think they'll be in that. I think everything from 13th to 20th is in that relegation kind of area. I think now we're in the kind of mid-table obscurity kind of space. So they're my number 12. But number 11, this is maybe, and I'll be interested where you've put them. I reckon you might have put them somewhere similar. This is my surprise package. It's Burnley. Burnley, I think, are the team that are, another. I think you said it earlier, another pet protege in company. They play very patient, very Guardiola-esque football. The kind of inverted wing backs that we've adopted, that City adopt, that many other clubs are adopting in that new brand of football, is what they do. I think they're going to be exciting to watch. I think they're going to play. It's just so weird because this is just not what you expect from a Burnley side. For anybody kind of expecting the same old Burnley of yesteryear to come up to the Premier League and be the same, you're going to be surprised by this. Now, I'm super looking forward to the game tomorrow to see what quite a tactical battle, to be honest. Kind of, similar to Arteta and Guardiola in a sense, where they kind of set them in very similar approaches. Yeah, they don't have the quality that we do, but it's exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, we're all hoping for a 3 points of Burnley tomorrow.
Is that Turf Moor as well, isn't it? I think.
I think it might be, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I'm quite excited by them too. They're very different to a word you use is dross a lot. And that's what Burnley used to remind me of a lot.
Yeah, they were.
So, however, in my 11th, I don't have Burnley. I have Brentford.
You haven't even higher.
Yeah, Burnley are my wild card. I have Brentford in 11th. Mainly, I think they'll be pretty consistent with last year, but I just think not having Tony and Raya is going to impact them. Tony is goals, and he's very difficult to play against, as we know from watching them at the Emirates last year when we were there. So, Brentford for 11th. Great manager, great squad. Just losing a few key players, I think, is going to impact them. There is a risk they could tumble further, actually, but I wouldn't like to see that. I like Brentford, so I've gone 11th.
Yeah, I quite like Brentford as well.
So my 10th then is, and this is hard. I'm almost about to change it, but I'm not. I'm going to leave it as is. I have Burnley in 10th. I think they've bought well. I think they are going to be extremely solid for a first-time team coming back into the Premier League. I think that Company is a great manager and scholar of Guardiola, and I think he will play a much more exciting brand of football. So, yeah, it's Burnley.
Nice. I had a feeling where you were going to go, and that wasn't it. I'm interested to see where you're going to put them. I think you're going to be surprised by my number 10.
Yeah.
I think number 10 is going to be Spurs.
So that was what I was about to switch Burnley and Spurs around because I was like, you never know.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I say, so I know this is an Arsenal podcast. I know there's a flavour of bias in there. I've tried as best as I can to keep my bias in check. But go on, Jace, what you got to say?
Bias would be them relegated, so it's not that biased.
Okay, all right, fair. So you feel I've been justified. I mean, it all depends. There's a big looming figure over this, and we'll talk about it in the parking lot, and it's Harry Kane. And that, depending on what happens with him, Richarlison could then be their talisman. And I mean, depending on what day of the week it is, he could turn up, he could not. They've made some all right signings. Like Maddison's a good player. Would have taken him at Arsenal for sure as a backup to one of ours. So he's going to be a starter for them. Pedro Porro at the back is also quite a good signing. Their manager just has not a lot of experience. Although I don't know if you've seen this, Jace. There was a clip of them. I think it was playing Barcelona, and they were playing out from the back, and they were playing some absolutely stunning football. It was only like a 2-minute clip. So I'm not so sure. I've not seen them enough to know for sure, but I know the manager lacks experience, and I do think that in a similar vein to Arsenal's, when we built the Emirates and we were under the cosh in terms of the ability for us to spend money, they kind of feel like they're in a similar position, that they can't necessarily go all out to get the players that they want. I mean, that all once again still depends on Kane. Like, I think if Kane stays, they'll be higher than 10th. He's just the North London derby penalty is going to be a given. That's going to be back on the table, and it's going to happen. So they'll be higher. But for now, if he leaves, 10th is where I'm putting them.
Well, the question is what they spend the money on, because if it's 86 million today, it's been accepted. There's the question now of whether he wants to go because he's leaning towards staying, which is I want to stay, get my Premier League record, and go to United on a free next year.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that in the parking lot, right? Because there's going to be so much to get into for the Kane deal. Because I do think there's a lot of meat to get in there. So
yeah,
have you done your 10th, Jace? Have you? I can't remember if you have or not.
Yeah, Burnley.
You did Brentford for your Burnley, sorry.
Yeah, so I had Spurs in 9th.
Okay,
it was very, very close, and I've seen quite a few people have had them around this 9th, 10th area because they've not. I mean, they're making a few signings now, but like, I just think teams around them are making better signings. Like, we'll come on and talk about Villa. So yeah, I've got them in 9th, and I don't think they'll be too different from last season, if I'm honest. I think it'll take time for Ange, as they're calling him, to change his style of play and implement his methods. I think he could be quite a good coach. It doesn't surprise me. I didn't see what the clip that you mentioned, but it doesn't surprise me that they're playing out for the back and playing well. But as we know, forcing a team of players that don't know how to play that way to play that way usually results in finishing 8th. As Arsenal fans, we know that with Arteta. I think it was like 8th, 2 years on the bounce, wasn't it? Or something like that, where he tried to change the style of play, but where you
got to find the right players that can fit that system rather than
and it takes
players, right?
Yeah, and it's going to take time for them to get to that. And also, we're just in when we were very lucky, actually. If I look at how the league has changed in 2 to 3 years, maybe post-COVID, the league has changed. Newcastle have got money. Aston Villa are spending money, and they've hired a good manager. Brighton are up there. They're investing their money well. They're selling. They're developing. They're like the Dortmund of the Premier League, where they just get young talent and turn them into mini superstars. So I just feel that it's a lot harder to get that progression that we've just had. So we did our couple of years down where we were completely out of Europe and we were in 8th, and then we got back to 5th, and then we finished 2nd, and now we're back there. But try doing that now. I think it's so much more difficult, and I think that's the problem Spurs have got, and that's why I've got them finishing 9th.
Okay. I've got Brentford in 9th, so along similar lines to you in that same kind of area. Not much to say, although I'm surprised. Is this their 3rd season in the Premier League now?
Yes.
Yes, which just surprised me that they, and I've got a bit of affinity. We always drive past their ground on the way up to Arsenal games. I like the coach. I like Thomas Frank. I like the stadium. I like the vibe. I've got nothing against Brentford, so I kind of want them to do well, even when they did beat us on the opening in the Premier League season 2 seasons back.
Yeah, and I'm gonna like it when they sell Ivan Toney on the cheap to us in January, because he's only got 6 months on his contract.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Because he's the striker I want as the backup.
You've not mentioned. Right, we're in European spots now, right? We're in number 8, which will be a Conference League position. So who are you sticking in the Conference League, Jace?
Brighton. They'll be consistent, but the problem is they're going to be consistently around there. I believe, and the reason is because they're never going to be a team that spends the money on the caliber of player that gets them to the next level. They have a Dortmund model. I think it's very clear. They bring in young talent from all across the world. They develop them and they sell them for big money. The problem is we're not a German or French league, or even Italian, where if they were playing in those leagues, what they do would be good enough to get them third, fourth, maybe even second in other countries. But in Premier League, it's like you've got 6 Bayern Munichs. So that's the only reason why I've put them lower. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be consistent. If they do bring in Kudus, if they keep Caicedo, they'll be good. So yeah,
stealing all my talking points, Chase.
Sorry, I'll shut up.
No, don't. It's all good. All good. Mine aren't 8th anyway. I have Newcastle in 8th.
Oh wow.
I just don't know. I don't think they've made as a kind of quality signings as you would have hoped with the money that they've got. I'm sure they're restricted a little bit by FFP. They have had a really good preseason, but they need to maintain that quality in their fitness from last season. I'm just not sure they can, particularly with European Champions League football in the mix. I think that's the issue for them. They'll just have a lot of games, a lot of people to play, not a lot of good options in rotation, a lot of tired legs, and they have sold some like Alexander and Saint-Maximin when they've lost some key quality players too. So yeah, I'm not too sure they'll be able to get much beyond that 8th to 6th kind of area.
Yeah, I mean I've got them in a similar position. I'll come on to them. However, you've taken most of my talking points on Newcastle.
Good. That's called get even, Jace.
Yeah. All right. 7th.
7th for me is Aston Villa.
Same.
Is it? Oh, good. I'll say one thing, then you say one thing, and then that way I won't steal all your talking points. I just think they've made some great signings. I would have taken Diaby in a heartbeat, and so I'm interested to see how he pans out.
Hopefully, better than Bailey.
See, it's good. No, it's Ramsey. I'm thinking is it Ramsey that's just gone to another club? I think.
I don't know. No, I don't think Ramsey's gone to another club, has he?
Someone did. I'm sure I saw it.
So they signed Bailey from Bayern Munich, didn't they? For like 25, 35. I don't know how much it was. And he was meant to be the next superstar Arsenal were touted about buying. And then he kind of flopped. And then the next superstar winger from Bayern Munich gets brought in to replace him. So I found that quite funny. So yeah, I think that would be interesting. I think Emery is finally proving himself in the Premier League, and I'm kind of happy to see it because I think he became a little bit of a joke figure when he was at Arsenal, and I think that he wasn't ready for the Premier League at that point. He couldn't speak the language effectively enough. I think that was I genuinely think that was a challenge. I think he had a communication challenge with his dressing room, which is, there are a lot of jokes that came out about him.
Good evening.
I think a bit harshly, and that he hates that now because like he's not taken well to people that have joked with him about that since. I think he genuinely is a good manager. He wouldn't have won all of those Europa Leagues at different clubs. They beat United, didn't they? Villarreal when he was there, and they beat Liverpool and Seville. So he's proven. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to be a good tactician and play a decent brand of football. I just think it was the wrong time for him at Arsenal, and I'm kind of happy with it because Mikel wasn't quite ready. So I'm happy with how everything turned out, and also, they need to keep Douglas Luiz though. That's the only thing I'll say. There's been rumours about him being wanted by Spurs, and even potentially the rumours are back for us going in for him again. if we have money left at the end of the window and we sell, we might go in for him, which just sounds a bit deja vu because that was the same last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, Villa 7th.
Yeah. Jackie Ramsey's gone to verbal agreement with Burnley, Jace.
What?
Hmm.
He was like one of the best midfielders.
I know. Quite a good little sign in that, I would say.
Well, for Burnley, yeah, that's stupid
Yeah,
for
for
Villa,
sure.
but yeah.
Yeah. I also wrote down Emery Ball, so I am with you. My second point was Emery Ball, so yeah, I agree with you.
2 Arsenal fans bigging up Emery. Who'd have thought it?
I know, exactly. Oh, my number 6, because you've already talked about them, so I'm going to keep it short and sweet. My number 6 is Brighton. I think if they can keep Caicedo and get in players like Kudus, they have a very good manager who plays very dynamic attacking football. They got some real top quality in their midst. Yes, they're a bit of a conveyor belt to other clubs, but that's not to say they can't hire again. Their recruitment system is elite. They are just getting and churning through some top young talent. So yeah, I've got them in 6, and I think they'll if they're not there, like you say, they'll be somewhere or thereabouts. I think that Brighton will do well this season.
Yeah, that's fair.
What's your number 6, Jace?
Newcastle. Not many high-profile transfers that I compared to what I was expecting from them. They're quite acute in who they buy. Not much more to add than what you added. The only thing I would say, Champions League is going to knock them out of the Champions League. Being in the Champions League will knock them out of the Champions League for the next season, unless they win it, which I don't think they will. Just because I think that's going to be another level for them. And I think they'll be fatigued in the league because of it. So I think that's why they'll be Europa League next year.
Yep.
5th place.
Chelsea. The most hated chant in English football, I'm sure. So yeah, Chelsea for me, number 5. Good coach. I've probably ragged on Pochettino to a lot of my friends over the years because he hasn't won anything in the Premier League. That's not to say he will now, and he is obviously a good coach. Got a good mix of players. They're going to need a bit of time to gel, but they've got some good players there. A lot of attacking fullbacks, a lot of firepower. They've got obviously some injuries that they picked up in pre-season that kind of might harm some of their starting chances. But I think they're in a good position with no European football, none at all, right?
No, none at all.
No, so no European football. I think will, in a similar vein to the opposite to Newcastle, will be working in their favour, similar to us when we've kind of dropped out and then not been able to kind of have it to deal with. What about you, Jason? Your 5th place.
Chelsea 2. Young squad. Because I think that there's a lot of people saying they think they'll get in 4th, which I don't. I think this is a young squad. I think it's going to take time for them to gel. I think Pochettino's going to get his methods across, and the kind of final thing that I was. Do you know what's gone? I had something else I was going to say.
Well, I did the same as you. I had them in 4th, and I moved them down after thinking a little bit harder about it.
Yeah, it's just going to take time.
I agree.
And that yeah, nothing else to add with Chelsea.
I reckon our top 4 is going to be the same. Like I say, I've not looked at yours, so I'm curious to see if it is identical. So, who is your number 4?
United.
Oh, it's not the same.
I was
close.
I mean, I was toying with United and Liverpool, like
same, yeah.
United's no striker ready to go. Because Højlund isn't.
Well, you're saying Højlund's not going to score more than Haaland? What a strange observation that is.
No, I was watching a couple of different things on YouTube and listening to podcasts, and I think everyone said that he's injured first of all, so he's not going to start the season, and so they're light there, and also a lot of people seeing him as a backup striker, not even the first choice.
So who?
Which is
Rashford?
No, as in he's just like they think they're going to bring. They think like they need to bring in Harry Kane and have Højlund on the bench, for example.
They have not got the money for that.
Yeah, I know, which is interesting, right? I still think that was a big gamble, but yeah, I think their striking options straight down the middle are a concern. I've said Rashford will carry them to the Champions League group, to the top 4 or top 5. It's going to be this year, not to the Champions League final. Sorry, I wasn't quite clear enough there. But he will be carrying them this year. Bruno's a bit hot and cold as well. And I think that they need their midfield to perform all season. You need consistency from Casemiro and Bruno all year, and sometimes they're a bit hot and cold. So that's the reasons why I had them below. I'm just going to do third, and then you can tell me your options. That's why I had them below Liverpool. But I'll let you talk about Liverpool because I talked about United. I'm guessing you've got them the other way around.
Yeah, I've got Liverpool in 4th. So for me, they've lost a lot of experience in Milner, in Hendo, in Ox, in Keita. So they have lost a lot of experience, but they've got a brand new midfield, and it's not to say that can't work. You know, McAllister's an astute signing. They've also now got a lot of their injured players from last season coming back into their attack. Diego Jota, Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz. I think that those 3 are going to be really good. Klopp is an elite manager. We've talked a lot in previous, not pods, but in person, about how much we both would have loved Klopp at Arsenal. And I think he is a really top tier manager. So I definitely think he'll give them the bounce that they need. Liverpool do this kind of spiky in out, shake it all about style with their positioning in the league. And I do feel they're going to get back right into the mixer. I just don't see them. The reason why I don't see them beating Man United, I think Man United have made some really good additions. I do think they've strengthened in the right areas. I do think Ten Hag is a good coach. Like you, their depth in midfield is the bit that I question. The triangle of Fernandes, Casemiro, and Mount. The drop off from that 3 to whatever falls below it, whether it's McTominay, Fred. Who else is like in that space? I mean, those 2 are both frankly awful. I think Fred's already on his way out the door anyway. I'm trying to think of who else they have.
Going to West Ham, isn't he?
So I don't know who that's what I'm saying. I don't think they've got a great depth of midfield, and like, you know, an injury or a standard Casemiro red card is going to probably make them a bit vulnerable at the back. So yeah, Man United for me are 3rd. Anything you want to add on Liverpool going into 3rd place for you?
So the reason I put them 3rd, I just think firepower wise, they score a lot of goals, and I can see that. Like, you've got Jota, you've got Salah, then you're adding.
I forgot Cody. Salah. How did I forget Salah?
Cody, Núñez, Cody, yeah, not Connor Cody. Cody,
he's an elite striker. Connor Cody, he's an elite striker.
No, Cody from PSV.
Gakpo, yeah.
And then Cody Gakpo, and then said Núñez. Oh, Diaz has got hit form this year. He was lightning in that first season. I mean, we were having arguments with Liverpool fans about who's better, Martinelli or Diaz. And because Diaz was so good in that first 6 months when he signed in January. So if he can come back, I think it's purely the goals Liverpool get, and I think their defense will be better this year. That's what will take them above United. But it'll be very, very close between those 2.
You've actually picked at an old wound of mine now, Jason. I was the one who said that Martinelli was better than Diaz, and everybody, I think including you, shot me down at the time when I said it.
Yeah, I did.
So can you eat these words that I'm giving you, Jace, just to make sure that I'm vindicated like you were about Havertz?
Based on last season, yeah, absolutely. Martinelli's standout last year. I think it'll be interesting this year to see both of them going at it, because I think they're both going to have good seasons.
Okay. Right, we've got 2 left. We've obviously got the same 2 left. I'm like 99% sure that we're going to both have the same team as the champions. So I think we should just go with that. They were going to say it after 3 at the same time. Who's going to be our number 1 pick? Because then it's obvious who's number 2. So after 3, Jason, I want you to shout the name of the team that you think is going to win the Premier League this year. 1, 2, 3. Arsenal.
Arsenal.
So obviously an Arsenal podcast. That's not to say that we would just choose Arsenal for the sake of it. I'm just interested to hear why you think we could win the Premier League this year, Jace.
Yeah, I mean, I've been quite vocal that I felt we were going to win the Champions League, not the Premier League. And then this week I changed. I guess the fan in me is more putting us at first than second, and maybe being more calculated. But I just reflecting on. I look at some of our depth that we have at the moment compared to City's. I feel we have a better depth than them in certain positions. I feel that we are more motivated than City to do it, because it's gonna get boring for a lot of those players now. Where and they've reached the top that they can reach. You know, maybe they go for 2 Champions Leagues on a trot or something, but to go again with the league as well, it's and push all the way in the other competitions. It's going to be there's got to be some fatigue and drop off in that squad at some point. It's only natural. I think they were saying that no team has ever won the Premier League more than 3 times on the trot. So naturally, this season requires, by the ruling of tradition, requires a different team to win it, and I think we're the best placed team to do that. So I guess I'm taking consideration all of those things. That doesn't mean, obviously, that history repeats itself. You know, City could easily go for a 4th, but I just think a number of those factors, and then just also looking at how we played at the weekend, we're up for it. We are really up for it this season, and it's not to say City are not, but I think that there is and we have another level that we're going to this year. So that's the reason I've called it out. How about you? What are your reasons?
Very, very similar to yours. I think we have the best first and second 11 in the league. Our drop off, and I've mentioned this a few times, between those first choice and second choice is not vast in a lot of cases. There is a drop off, of course, in some cases, but this is why I like the look of a Raya replacement. You know, there's not much in it, and they're different, versatile players in certain aspects of their game. So I like that. World class additions. I think we'll go one further than last year. I think we're up for it, like you say. I look at Man City and I just look at some of the experience that they've lost in the likes of Mahrez, in Gundogan. I don't think that their replacements are as strong as ours. You know, if we're losing a Declan Rice, we could put a Havertz in there. We have that. If they lose a Rodri, I don't think they've got a ready-made replacement for him to come in.
I think they're really I don't understand their striking, wing based options, because if they had Jesus and Aguero, then they lost Aguero and they played with Jesus and a wide variety of. Well, they bought Ferran Torres, didn't they? And then they got rid of him quite quickly. Yeah. And then they decided to switch out Jesus and bring in Haaland, and they've got is it Alvarez?
Yep.
I don't know. It's just something that doesn't stand out for me. I'm like, if Haaland gets injured the way Jesus gets injured, they have a lot of goals taken out of that team. And you could say that those goals are supplemented by their other players, like Arsenal. The fact is, Arsenal do rely on our other players for goals. City last year did not. They relied on Haaland. The difference is some of the players that were getting those goals last year for City aren't there anymore. Gundogan got a lot of goals. Mahrez always gets goals.
I'm sure they both got 15 each last season, so they've lost 30 goals. It's not a small.
Yeah, so one injury to Haaland and suddenly you take a lot of goals out that side. So I look at that, and that's what I mean by the little bit of depth. I think if we don't have Jesus, he wasn't necessarily getting massive amounts of goals for us anyway. And I believe that you're going to see more goals from Martinelli this year. you're going to see more goals from Trossard this year. You're going to get some goals, not loads, but some from Havertz. That's goals that we weren't getting before. You're going to get more goals from Saka this year. So I think even though we're sharing our goals around, those volumes of goals are going to naturally go up. And yeah, I think City have had theirs taken away almost. And so unless you're going to get a Bernardo Silva or a Grealish scoring more goals, which I'm not sure if you are, there's a lot of City fans saying, "Thanks for the treble, Jack, but on your way." Like they want to get rid of Grealish. I'm like, that's crazy.
I mean, he still looks a bit hungover, to be honest, from all the celebrations. So maybe that's why.
I think he tried to start a couple of jokey fights with Zinchenko, didn't he, on Sunday?
Yeah.
Didn't take too kindly to it. Yeah. So that's it, isn't it?
Champions. Yeah, that is Arsenal 2023 Premier League, 2023-2024 Premier League champions, which is something to look forward to for sure. It's been a long show though, Jace, and we have a little bit of time left. We're going to get into the parking lot. There's a little something that you want to quickly talk about. What is it?
Yep. Just to say, if anyone hasn't, please and absolutely do watch the Jack Wilshere Back Home documentary that Arsenal done. It's a little bit like the Prime series that Arsenal did. It's a similar style, but we've done it in-house with our own media team, and it's Jack Wilshere coaching the under-18s in the Youth Cup. I've just watched the first episode of a 2-part series, so I've got the second part to watch, but it's a really good watch. I recommend it. It's interesting to see what he's like as a coach, because he's not the Jack the lad you know as a footballer. He's a lot more professional, which is hard to picture Jack sometimes in that kind of role because we know him as the player. But yeah, he comes across really composed. He comes across really on board with Per Mertesacker's principles, and the principles that that Arteta puts in his team from watching the documentary, knowing how he behaves. So he's maybe he will become the first coach that's from the mold of Arteta, opposed to having loads of coaches that are from the mold of Guardiola. So yeah, it was quite interesting watch. So yeah, recommend it.
Nice.
Anything for new? You want to talk about Kane, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm just interested. Give me a one-word answer, Jace. Is Kane staying or going? One word.
Staying.
I like it. One word. I would agree with you. I think he will look at that Premier League record and want to break it. I just find this is just one of the. It feels like when Declan Rice was coming and going to Arsenal, and it all felt like it was dragging on a little bit and going through the ringer with West Ham. Feels like a little bit like that kind of saga for Spurs, and they cannot afford to be running into middle of August with that hanging over them. It's either gone or he's not, and because they're going to need to replace if he's gone, and they've got money to do so if they need to, and so they can't afford to leave it hanging. But I do feel it's such an odd choice for me. For me, if I was trying to force a move, I'd be forcing it to Man United.
Yeah, I mean, so there's an interesting kind of. I've got a friend who's a Spurs fan, and the chat's been going off all day on WhatsApp, and he absolutely hates Daniel Levy. I think that's probably a lot of Spurs fans want him out the club. He's a very shrewd negotiator. I think he probably thinks he's being quite clever. But I don't know if this is going to play out as well for him as he thinks, because he should have got on and done the deal a long time ago. Like, why would you reject the deal? It was pretty much the same deal at the weekend. Why did they reject it and now they've suddenly accepted it?
I get the feeling they're calling his bluff. Honestly.
Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, I think it's something similar. I see Kane just going, look, like, you're a bit of an idiot, and I can run my contract down for free and go to United and earn a lot more money next year. I think that's what he'll do, and I can get the Premier League record that way. And at least if I go to United, I've got a better chance of winning trophies if I am part of Ten Hag's revolution. So I think United gives him the best of both worlds, potentially. Bayern Munich, you're going to win the Bundesliga. Does he care about the
Well,
Bundesliga?
I do wonder if he
don't know.
goes there, wins a trophy, and then comes back to Spurs after 2 or 3 years to break the record. Possible.
He's dropping off now, though, I think, from this to an extent.
James, he scored 4 goals the other day in like a pre-season game. The guy just bangs goals for fun.
I don't know. I think there's a drop-off point. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But he has to choose carefully where he plays the next 3 years of his career, I'd say, because it's going to be his most prominent final 3 years before then it really drops off. So choose carefully.
Indeed. Right, we've had 70 minutes of electric banter and discussion on the Premier League predictions for this coming season. So thank you all very much for tuning in. Jace, if anybody was watching us on YouTube, what would you suggest that they do with our videos?
Leave a like and put a comment. Ask a question.
That is correct. And if they're on Spotify, what should they do, Jace?
Leave a review, no less than 5-star. Else Grev will get very, very angry. And the same for Apple Podcasts too.
Yeah, you would not like me outside your front door asking why there's a 4-star rating on our podcast. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. Right. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back again, hopefully this weekend, to review our game against Nottingham Forest, which me and Jace are both going to.
Oh, one last thing. I was going to do it on every podcast. Prediction score for Forest or prediction score for the next game.
Oh, okay. I think it's going to be a big one for us. I think I'm looking at a 3-0.
3-0.
What about? I know you're just going to say the same thing you always say, Jace.
What am I going to say? You're
going to say 3-1. You always say 3-1.
4-1.
4-1. Just being awkward.
Yeah,
we're going to see. We're going to see who's going to come through on Saturday. So we'll speak to you again at the weekend. Do tune in. We'll be going through that, and hopefully we'll be seeing Arsenal top of the table, 3 points with a lot of goals in the bag. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you later.
Cheers, guys.